สวัสดีค่ะ Welcome to Hot Thai Kitchen. So a few years ago, I started getting a request for this dish that I had never heard of. It's called Leng Saeb, and I was like, what? Turns out Mark Wiens, we all know Mark Wiens, right, had posted this viral video that he titled The Most Insane Street Food in Thailand, where he was eating a literal mountain of braised pork bones drenched in this spicy, garlicky broth. And it's a relatively new Thai dish that became super popular very quickly because it kind of looks crazy, but it's actually insanely good. I've tried it, it's awesome, and it's actually totally doable at home. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's get started. The main ingredient needs a bit of an intro, and that is leng or pork spine. So you can find this at an Asian butcher either as pork neck bones or backbones. I find neck bones have more meat, so get that if you can. It's sold at Asian butchers for making pork stock, which is exactly what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna drop these into some water. Now, if you're sitting there going, is she literally making a dish out of pork bones? Yes, but the thing about these pork bones is there's so much meat on it. Whenever I make pork stock, I'm always at the end picking out all the meat, and I end up with this huge pile of meat that I end up throwing into a soup or a stir fry or whatever. And I suspect that's sort of the inspiration of this dish, is people thought, you know, there's enough meat on here to actually make this into a dish of its own. And yes, trust me, this will be enough for like 3-4 people easy. I'm gonna add some seasoning, just fish sauce and soy sauce going in. Let it simmer for about 30 minutes, and then we'll come back to it. Once you see a significant amount of scum going, let's just take that out. Not that that would kill you, it's just not very pretty. It's probably good nutrients, if anything. Iron, protein. And now I'm going to add some aromatics, which today I'm just using onions and garlic. Just basic stuff, but if you have daikon, careful, it's hot. If you have daikon, that would be a really good one to add as well. I just don't happen to have one right now. So onions, garlic going in, and also I've got some crushed white peppercorns. You can do black, not a problem. If you got cilantro roots, you can throw that in. I'm just keeping it basic because we're gonna dress this up later, but now that has to cook for another hour and a half or so, just until the meat is fork tender. And that might vary depending on how thick the meat that's on your bone is, but total time you want it to be at about 2 hours. All right, that smells like a Thai noodle soup stall. So we gotta first check that the pork is indeed fork tender. So you pick out a piece, and then you wanna look for the part where the meat is thickest, which on a piece of bone is a little tricky. So I can see that this here is really chunky. Oh, no, that's bone. There we go. Okay, that's going in easily. You don't want this to let this go indefinitely and then meat starts falling off the bone. That's not good either for presentation. Now, I'm going to just skim off all the scum. Turn it off first. Not the scum, the onions. I'm gonna skim off all the onions just to make life easier. I mean, you could eat that. And now we're gonna put the dish together. So I'm gonna just do a switcheroo here. This guy can sit over here. And this is where we're gonna make our broth, okay? So this is our base stock. So I'm just gonna take about 2 cups of this base stock. And now you have a ton of broth left over, which you can make more of this stuff, but this is really good for noodle soups. You almost don't need to do anything else to it. Just cook up some noodles and it's perfect, okay? So keep that, that'll freeze. So with this, bring it back to a boil. And then we're gonna make it sep. In my mortar here, I'm going to add a lot of chilies, which if Mark Wiens saw this, he'd be like, that's nothing. But I'm making this for people who can't eat very spicy. I actually took some seeds out as well. So we're gonna just pound this until it's crushed up. You can just chop. That looks good. In Mark Wiens' video, it's all green because they use green chilies. So you can do that if you want. I'm just doing a mix of red and green for some nice color, but that's it. You just need it kind of broken up. That's boiling now. I'm gonna turn this off, and then immediately I'm gonna add the garlic. Chopped garlic, lots of chopped garlic. And I turn it off because I want just enough heat to sort of soften the bite of the garlic, but I still want it to taste fresh. So that's the key. You just let it sort of infuse in hot broth, but you don't want to cook it. And then my chilies go in. I'm gonna season it with a little bit of sugar. Fish sauce, the amount of fish sauce you absolutely have to taste and adjust because everyone's gonna end up with different amounts of broth by the time you're done with this, and it might be more salty, less salty. So add less first, and then you can add more. The most important thing for this is lime juice. This broth is sour and spicy, and so you want a lot of lime. This is the part where I start to salivate because I can smell the garlic, the lime, the chilies. This is gonna be good. And then a final touch, and I save it for last because I want the broth to cool down a little bit, is lots of cilantro. If you have sawtooth coriander, now would be a good time to use it. I think dill would be really good as well if you like that flavor. Ooh, can't wait. So now I'm gonna give this a taste. Ooh, that's spicy. I was gonna make this for people who don't eat very spicy, but too late. I think it needs a little more fish sauce. As I said, you really have to adjust. That's it. That's perfect. Now, let's build the mountain. This is the hardest part of this whole recipe, is building an impressive mountain. It's like pork Jenga. Now, clearly, we're not making the crazy, insane amount a la Mark Wiens, but if you want to do that, just make more. That's it. Nothing changes. You just make a bigger amount and pile them higher. Okay. Look at that. Now the best part is drizzling this broth on top. Wow, look at that. It's like Christmas. It looks like pork Christmas tree. Nice. Now, how do you eat this? With gusto, that's how you eat it. And with rice. Kachang. Some pieces have more meat than others, so it's a little bit of luck. But this piece, there's not that much, but look how tender, how it just kind of falls off the bones. Like some piece you get like a big chunk, but other piece it's more bones. But it's like, I feel like the bony part, the meat is better than where the meat is really chunky. Oh, so good. You gotta go back for the broth. Because the broth makes the dish. Oh, and it's not too spicy now that everything's together. One of those things that you drink and you just have to go because that's how good it is. It's sour, it's garlicky, it's spicy, but so full-bodied because there's so much pork bones, pork essence in there. And the meat is so tender, fall off the bones tender. I mean, you can be graceful about it, but at some point you can just totally like gnaw on it like a wild animal. That is incredible. And I just want to say that there will be little bone fragments to watch for because when they cut these, they use a bandsaw, right, to cut through all the bones. And sometimes there's just tiny little bits. So just be careful if you're eating this with kids. Maybe you want to do it for them or something. But this is such a festive fare, like have a lot of people just kind of like ravaging at it with some beer. Perfect New Year's Eve party. So good. So I hope you give this a try. The recipe, as always, will be on hotthaikitchen.com. And a special thanks to our Patreon supporters. If you want to watch my videos with no ads and get some bonus content, check out what Patreon is all about. I'll put the link below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time for your next delicious Thai meal.